Blog Talk Radio.
It seems we have a problem. I would like to introduce Bigfoots Pad Paranormal Investigations Team.
Another edition of Bigfoots Pad Paranormal Radio. On the lines with me today, I have the whole entire panel with me today. I have the Mothman Warrior, the Archangel, King Gray, and myself, King Sass. Well, today's show, we're going to be talking about two very strange cryptids handpicked by Brent, the Kushtaka and the Chullachaqui. Oh no! What do you think, Brent? How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
Pretty good. I'm excited to talk about these cryptids you picked out. I mean, I've never heard of these before. It's pretty interesting. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, I never heard of them either until Brent picked them out and told us about them. So it's
yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing what these creatures are all about.
Well. Just curious, Brent, how did you come across these creatures?
Honestly,
just on the internet?
Yeah, just on the internet, just looking around, searching for them. Well, not really searching for them, but heard stories about them. So, just decided to Google it.
Well, I have a couple of news stories I'm going to get started with here. I only have 3 of them for today, but they're a little long. Yeah, Brent, I don't know if you were on the show, but were you here when I talked about the UFO they found in the bottom of the Baltic Sea?
I think I remember that, but I'm not really. It's vague though.
Oh well, there's a UFO that they think is at the bottom of the Baltic Sea. And apparently the other day they did an expedition to go down and look at it. So I wrote, the divers exploring a UFO-shaped object at the bottom of the Baltic Sea say their equipment stops working and malfunctions when they approach within 200 meters of the object. Professional diver Stefan Hogerborn, part of the Ocean X team, which is exploring the anomaly, said some of the team's cameras and team's satellite phones refused to work when directly above the object and would only work once they sailed away. It's quoted as saying anything electric out there, and a satellite phone as well, stopped working when we were above the object. Then when we got away about 200 meters, it turned on again. When we got back over the object, it wouldn't work. The object was first found in May last year, but because lack of funding and bad timing, they were not able to pull a team together to see for themselves. Just a strange metallic outline and a similar disc-shaped object about 200 meters away under the water as well. During their visit, the team saw a 985-foot trail that they described as a runway or a downhill path that's flattened at the seabed with the object at the end of it. So it sounds almost as if they found a crashed UFO at the bottom of the Baltic Sea is what it sounds like to me.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
I remember that.
Remember that story, Nick?
Well, yeah. I'd like to bring up a very small, very nitpicky point, almost out of laughs and giggles even, but would this thing be considered a USO and not a UFO?
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was a UFO until it crashed underwater. Then it became a USO.
That is very debatable, but we'll have to get onto that in another time.
Well, here's my next one. Sorry, I'm trying to hurry up and get through these. I have a lot of stuff to cover. I wrote, researchers have designed microparticles that can be injected directly into one's bloodstream quickly to oxygenate your body, even if you can't breathe anymore. It's one of the best medical breakthroughs in modern years, and it's one that could save millions of lives every year. The invention, developed by a team at Boston Children's Hospital, would allow medical teams to keep patients alive for 15 to 30 minutes despite major respiratory failure. This is enough time for doctors and emergency personnel to act without risking a heart attack or permanent brain injuries in the patient. The solution has already been successfully tested on animals under critical lung failure. When the doctor injected this liquid into the patient's veins, it restored the oxygen in their blood to near normal levels, granting them those precious additional minutes of life. So, apparently, if that thing gets mass-produced, it'll be almost impossible to drown, in a sense, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it sounds pretty amazing, but too bad health insurance rates are going to skyrocket after the events from a couple days ago. Not to get too political or anything, but yeah, that technology sounds absolutely amazing, and I hope that it can be used for, the average person instead of just the super rich that normally would only be able to afford technology such as that.
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to get a hold of some of that serum. I'm going to have a hold your breath contest with Brent, but I'm going to inject myself with that stuff before I do it. But scientists have found new evidence that they say supports the theory that a knuckle bone and other human remains found under a church in Bulgaria may belong to John the Baptist. The relics found in a small marble sarcophagus 2 years ago on a Bulgarian island called Sveti Ivan, which translates to St. John, also included a human tooth, part of a skull, and 3 animal bones. A research team from Oxford University dated the right-handed knuckle bone to the 1st century A.D., when John is believed to have lived until his beheading ordered by King Herod, and the university said in the statement. And scientists from the University of Copenhagen analyzed the DNA of the bones, finding they came from a single individual, probably a man, from a family in modern-day Middle East, where John would have lived. Bulgarian archaeologists had found a small box of hardened volcanic ash close to the sarcophagus. The box bore inscriptions in ancient Greek that referred to John the Baptist and the date that Christians celebrate his birth, June 24th. The findings of another Oxford researcher using historical documents suggest that the monastery of Sveti Ivan may have received a portion of John the Baptist's remains in the 5th or 6th century.
That's pretty cool.
Think that's interesting, Brent?
Yeah, actually.
That was pretty crazy. I know we had that one, what was it, a few weeks ago, we talked about they found some other, I forgot which prophet it was, but they found one of the prophets, what do you call it, in Ireland or whatever, they found something that's supposed to be linked to, like, Jesus or something.
Yeah, we were talking about how, it was that End Time show, the last show we did, when we were talking about how a bunch of holy artifacts have been found in the past 10 or 20 years.
Well, we have 50 minutes left in the show. I guess I'm going to get started. Sorry to run through the news so quick, but we're going to get started with our first topic of Brent's choosing, the Kushtaka. All right, well, I guess I'll talk a little bit about the Kushtaka's general information, then we'll get deep into the stories and all that. So, Kushtaka are mythical creatures found in the stories of the Tlingit and Tsimshian, I think I'm saying that right, Indians of southeastern Alaska. So it's an American thing, it's Alaska. Loosely translated, Kushtaka means land otter man. Physically, Kushtaka are shapeshifters capable of assuming either human form or the form of an otter. In some accounts, a Kushtaka is able to assume the form of any species of otter, and others only one. So before I get deep into this, I was going to say, it sounds like it's, how should I say this? It sounds like it's some sort of an entity that could transform between a human and an otter. What's your take on that, Brent?
I don't know. Sounds like a pretty interesting ability.
And the notes that I wrote down is leprechauns and skinwalkers do the same thing, where they transform between different types of forms, or they use similar stuff.
That's really.
Yeah.
What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, well, I guess we could go into the debate or discussion where we ask what type of entity or creature could the Kushtaka be? Is it a spiritual entity? Is it some sort of an alien? Is it some creature from another dimension, perhaps? I don't know, but I think all of those are pretty valid answers, or pretty valid possibilities for this creature if it is real. And I mean, we'll probably get into that discussion in the next few minutes, but I guess I would think it most likely would be perhaps some sort of an extraterrestrial creature. That's going to be my take as of now, based on my limited information.
Well, that's the other thing. I was going to say, do you think it's an extraterrestrial, spiritual, or do you think it sounds like a living animal? Are the three questions I wrote down. How do you vote, Brent?
I don't know. That's kind of difficult to say.
Sounds spiritual to me.
Yeah, it does. But I mean, actually,
Yeah, it could.
I don't know.
It could very well be spiritual. No, it's okay.
So, accounts of the Kushtaka's behavior seem to conflict with one another. In some stories, Kushtaka are cruel creatures who take delight in tricking poor native sailors to their deaths. In others, they're friendly and helpful, frequently saving lost from. In other stories, they're friendly and helpful, frequently saving the lost individuals from death by freezing. In many stories, the Kushtaka save the lost individual by distracting them with curiosity, otter-like illusions of their family and friends as they transform their subject into a fellow Kushtaka, thus allowing them to survive in the cold. Naturally, this is a counter to mixed blessings. However, Kushtaka legends are not always pleasant. In some legends, it's said Kushtaka will imitate the cries of a baby or an infant or the screams of a woman to lure victims into the river. Once in the river, the Kushtaka either kills the person or tears them to shreds or will turn them into another Kushtaka. So basically what I wrote right there is that's almost like a mermaid in the sense where they lure people into the waters, and then once the people enter the water, they either kill them or transform them into another similar being, in a sense. What do you think, Nick?
Well, the behavior at the beginning of what you just said, you said the behavior is somewhat contradictory, but not to just disagree with you, but the behavior might actually not be very contradictory at all, because behavior in humans and any other animal is very dynamic, and it can change from situation to situation. So perhaps these creatures, the Kushtaka, simply at times don't mind helping people, and maybe at other times they just want to have a little fun.
Well, here's my other opinion, is how would that be beneficial to them to turn other people into another Kushtaka?
Well, I guess just perhaps, here's a wildly speculative theory I just came up with off the back of my hand. Maybe these creatures are asexual and they cannot reproduce, so in order to sustain their population, maybe they need to capture humans to turn them into perhaps a hybrid of sorts, like it is said of the Greys and various other alien species. So there, I guess there's my wild out there theory of the day for you guys.
I guess I'll ask Tim what I brought it to Nick. I was like, don't you think that sounds like mermaid behavior, though, Tim? Like from the Mermaid show, where the mermaids lure sailors or different people into the water, and then they kill them or turn them into another mermaid.
Well, exactly. It sounds very similar to that. Because I don't know, like we were talking about earlier. I think it's kind of hard to determine whether it's really spiritual or like a cryptid, you know. Mm-hmm. But it does sound like it's more spiritual, in my opinion.
Well, I just got a email from Brent, actually sent it to me earlier. He told me to bring up the fact that legends say that Kushtaka can be warded off through copper, urine, and sometimes fire. And he wrote that that's similar to leprechauns and fairies in Europe, that stale bread can ward off bad spirits in Wales from the doppelganger show that we had. That's a good find, Brent.
Yeah, no problem.
Then I wrote, Nick, so here's the thing also. Do you think that they're still extraterrestrial in the sense that you could ward them off with urine, copper, or fire?
Well, let me make a Giorgio explanation for you with this one. Just have a little fun with it. Well, with fire can ward almost anything that I know, any living creature off that I know of. Perhaps there's some type of chemical in the urine that repels these alien creatures from when they come next to you, and the same could also be said maybe of copper. Maybe the chemical composition of the copper gives them an allergic reaction. So maybe that's why they're warded off by those substances.
I was going to say, well, I do know that if it's a living animal, that urine would naturally have like a certain odor to it that might say like you're marking your territory or whatever, it's like stay away type of thing.
That's true. A lot of animals do that in the wild.
Well, yeah, animals urinate all the time on trees and various. I mean, look at when you walk your dog. If you got a dog, if you walk a dog, and they're always peeing on the bushes to cover the scent of other dogs. And sometimes if a dog smells the urine of another dog, he or she will go away and act very submissive and fearful when they smell the urine of the other dog. So if it's a living animal, then that behavior is not very unusual at all.
Well, an interesting note. I wrote, the sightings from the Kushtaka start in the early 1700s by explorers, and they go all the way till present day. Now, present-day individuals would be harder to fool with stories of magic and transforming and things than they would back then. So I think maybe there is some kind of truth to it. Right?
Yeah, it's very possible.
And I wrote, since the Kushtaka mainly prey on small children, it has been thought by some that it was used by the Native American mothers to keep their children from wandering close to the ocean by themselves. They would use the stories of the Kushtaka to try to keep them from going out. And I wrote, could the Kushtaka be a real animal turned magical by natives? Like, maybe it's a real living otter-like thing, and the natives just randomly gave it powers through stories? or naturally, a predator would eat easy prey such as children if it was a predator-type animal. Those are the two.
You mean like you said, like maybe a real life animal turned boogeyman type thing?
That's what I was saying. Maybe it's like could be like a real life otter that the Native Americans just give it random powers or whatever.
Yeah.
No. It is an alien. It is an alien that is so self-evident. I cannot believe you guys can't see that. I'm sorry. I had to do my best Giorgio imitation right there.
But you have to imagine the Native Americans gave Sasquatch. They gave him magical powers through stories, and same thing with like bald eagles and things. I was saying maybe that could be what's going on.
Yeah, that's definitely possible. I wasn't there when the Indian shaman performed some type of a curse or a spell on an otter, so I wouldn't be able to say yes or no.
Well, there's some legends and hearsay about sounds that the Kushtaka supposedly make. I wrote, it said that the Kushtaka emit a high-pitched 3-part whistle in the pattern of a low-pitched, high-pitched, low-pitched. I guess that's the order is what everybody always says. But some people say that the Kushtaka can actually make the sound that humans make, or that they can seem to imitate it, like imitate what they hear, kind of like a parrot. So, do you think the Kushtaka are intelligent, Nick, or do you think that they just, like a parrot, like I said, they kind of imitate whatever sounds they hear?
Well, if it's an animal, and they do indeed hunt humans, then it would be a very good behavior, an adaptation that they evolved to be able to mimic their prey, to draw their prey to eat them. I mean, some of the accounts of the Kushtaka say that it imitates the sound of a baby. Well, that's a very it's a very good adaptation, because if it makes the sound of a baby, it will attract the women of the villages of these Inuits that they allegedly stalk and hunt, or maybe a male of the village will go try to protect the baby. I don't know. I'm just saying that imitating the sounds of an infant will draw the attention of almost anybody, and that would be a very good way for the Kushtaka to lure in its prey.
So here's a good one for Brent. I wrote, if they actually can speak and they are intelligent, they could speak English or whatever language, don't you think that would mean that they would be some sort of a ghost or an extraterrestrial if they could do that?
What's that? Sorry about that. My brother's talking to me.
No, I was saying if the Kushtaka can actually speak English, like some of the people say could actually speak, don't you think that would mean it would have to be some sort of like a spirit or maybe like a extraterrestrial type thing?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, it sounds like it's kind of not mythological, but I mean, it does sound like it would be like a spirit of some type, just from the way it sounds. Well,
there is a location in Alaska called Kushtaka Cave and Kushtaka Cove, which is apparently where some of the Kushtaka are supposedly able to live. And archaeologists went there in some of these caves, and they found spears and different ancient man weapons, I guess, where apparently natives supposedly killed Kushtakas, which I thought was interesting. What do you think, Nick?
Well, I guess the sites that you just mentioned could have been the locations of Kushtaka killings, or maybe they are just sacred holy sites to the Inuits or whatever group of Alaskan Indian that may revere the Kushtaka, maybe, but I think those are probably the most logical explanations. Either something actually happened there, like they did go down and kill these creatures, or maybe it's just an old wives' tale or some sort of a tall tale. Like for instance, where I grew up in New England, there was a cave known as Red Eyes Cave where allegedly some prisoner escaped from. He's being brought west, they said, on a train, and he escaped the train and he fled into this cave and he got stuck in the cave, and you can see his glowing red eyes to this day. It was a pretty scary story as a kid, but there was never a prisoner who escaped into that cave, but yet it was a very powerful and very well-known story in New England where I grew up, so it could be something like that as well.
So, do you think, personally, that you could kill a Kushtaka?
Well, I guess it depends what type of weapon I'd be using. If I don't know if I'd fare very well with a spear or a bow and arrow, but if I have one of Tim's munitions, I may fare much better than with a spear. Wouldn't you agree, Tim?
Yeah.
Well, I have two more questions before we go on to our next subject. I got one for Tim and one for Brent. So, Tim, I was saying, do you think the Kushtaka can be a spirit, like a Native American spirit, that's attached to a specific area?
Very may well be, because there's many like Indian tales, Native American tales that there's certain spirits or beings are attached to a certain piece of land.
Mm-hmm.
So it's maybe it's just part of this land, and maybe it's like a skinwalker type thing, possibly.
And Brent, I know it was talking about Native Americans, or Eskimos, I guess you call them. It said that they could be turned into a Kushtaka, right? Brent?
It said that they could what?
Kushtakas could turn other people into Kushtakas.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
But it was talking about Eskimos, right? So do you think that they could turn, like, white settlers or white men into Kushtakas? That's the other question.
I don't know. That's. I mean, if they could do that, I mean, that would be weird. I mean, it's kind of like a magical, spiritual type. Like it keeps leaning towards like a spiritual in some aspects, with the religion and all that stuff, or not religion, but belief.
But on that note, if there was a Kushtaka in the area, do you think that if you wanted to get rid of it, would you hunt it, or would you try to get like almost like an exorcism, bless the land type thing to get it out?
Well, I don't know. I would. I don't know how you would. I'd probably try to get it, like, I guess, try to get rid of it by, like what they say to deter like urine or copper or fire and stuff like that, but to keep it away, Other than that, I mean,
Nick tied up outside, and when you came out in the morning, he was a Kushtaka.
Like, I guess time to leave or hunt this thing.
Where Nick was sitting, like where he was tied up, you see an otter sitting there with a rope around his arm. So before we go on to our next topic, I was going to say, what's your guys' final opinion for this show with the information we just talked about? What do you think of the Kushtaka?
Well, I think it's most likely like a spiritual type creature myself, but that's what I think.
I say, well, Nick, or Brent, what's your guys' opinion?
I guess I'll say, I believe it's a shape-shifting extraterrestrial of aliens that are hiding out in the Arctic with some bases underneath the polar ice cap. I don't know. Well, I actually do think it's probably extraterrestrial, minus the rest of the gibberish I tacked on to the end of that statement.
What about you, Brent?
I think I'm gonna have to go with Nick, or Tim on this one. I feel it's a very spiritual thing. I mean, it's just my opinion, but to me, and from the way it sounds, it kind of sounds spiritual in a way.
So if we're ever in Alaska, we're gonna look for a Kushtaka.
Yep.
What's your opinion, Nick? Would you go look for a Kushtaka?
Yeah, I'd go look for it. It sounds like.
Although I wouldn't know how to start looking, but I just know to go to that cove or that cave. But other than that, I wouldn't know where to look.
Yeah, me neither. We'd have to do more research.
Well, our next topic is called the Chullachaqui. I know that's a weird word for people, and most people haven't heard of this. But the Chullachaqui in Spanish, or El Chullachaqui, and also known as the Sophistico, is how I think you say that, Sophistico, is a legendary devil of the Peruvian and Brazilian Amazonian jungles. It's reported to be only about 3 or 4 feet tall, but with immense speed and a mouthful of razor-sharp teeth, with pointy ears, sparse fur, and a 3-toed footprint. It's said to make a distinctive clicking noise as a vocalization, and it appears to be nocturnal because it's mostly seen at nighttime. So that's the general description of the Chullachaqui. And I wrote, you guys think it sounds like it could be something similar to the orang pendek?
I don't know, but it sounds quite similar to a lot of people you see in Vegas every day who just have come fresh from the Rio Grande.
What do you think, Brent?
It kind of sounds like it. Did they ever give a description of what color it was, or you might have said it and I didn't hear?
Well, there's 2 different types that are seen. Some people say they're hairless, and some people say they have hair like sparsely over its body, but they don't really say what color it is. But a note I would like to make is people claim to have casted the footprints before. So, I don't know. So, what do you think, Brent? Bigfoot or a different thing?
It could be similar to an orang pendek. I mean, sometimes spotted hairless. I mean, I don't know what that could be.
Well, some say that the Chullachaqui appears disguised as prey to hunters and tricks them deep into the jungle where even experienced trackers cannot find their way back. Others say that the Chullachaqui takes the physical form of a family member or a loved one that hasn't been seen for a long time and persuades the victim to follow them into unknown places in the jungle where they're led into traps or off the edge of cliffs with no way out. Others say that he appears in the shape of a very short man dressed in rags, waving his closed fist in the air looking for a fight. That's the natives' opinions on it. So depending on who you talk to, they'll either say it's like a creature like Bigfoot, or they'll say it's like that, like almost like a hobbit type thing. I guess. What do you think, guys? That's the first question before I say my next.
To me, it kind of sounds like a siren where they just like lead you to your death, pretty much.
That's true. It kind of does sound like somebody like Brenda Siren.
Well, the weird thing about it is, how do you explain those 3-toed footprints they got casted then? Like, well, what are those?
I don't know. Well, that makes
the creature.
That's like
Sorry, Tim. Go ahead.
I was gonna say that part right there does kind of make you think that maybe it is a cryptid of some sort.
What were we saying?
Yeah, I was going to say the creature could have evolved a certain way where it has three toes on its feet for whatever reason. I couldn't even give you guys an idea, but one thing I'd like to point out is it could imitate the prey of, again, people that are hunting it in order to lure. Are there any accounts of the Chullachaqui eating humans? Because I know when we did the show on the Yowie, the Aborigines said the Yowie ate people. Are there any accounts of the Chullachaqui doing that?
There are some accounts of it attacking people and killing people, but I don't know about eating people.
Well, if it preys on humans or has some other purpose for humans,
surrender to me. I promise I'll make it quick.
That's the
it would use the imitation of the hunter's prey to just draw them, like Brentford, like a siren. It would just draw them to their doom, their death, or whatever sick, maniacal things that the Chullachaqui has in mind for people.
Well, this goes along with what the story you were talking about. Natives believe a man must accept his challenge and beat him until he covers all the riches that the Chullachaqui hidden in the jungle. He who declines the challenge is cursed with the inability to hunt and foul luck. Family and friends turn into enemies. The wife leaves with another man, etc. That's an example. So I wrote, you think it could be almost like a doppelganger or some sort of a curse, the Chullachaqui. And then I wrote, on that note, is it a living creature or is it a spirit? It sounds almost like the Yowie, like Nick was saying last week. It sounds like the Yowie, like a rite of manhood to play the Chullachaqui's tricks or catch one or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, Nick, what do you think?
Well,
there definitely could be. Go ahead, Tim.
Well, no, I was gonna say I agree with Nick. Maybe like and like you were saying too. Maybe it's like you said, maybe it is like a rite of like a passage. Say like you said, you've seen it or encountered it,
Yeah. So yeah, Nick, what's your take on it? Is it spiritual or the rite of passage thing with the natives, the legend? Does it have some kind of truth to it, Nick, or what's your opinion?
Yeah, I think there's definitely some type of truth to it. The Amazon jungle, even though it's shrinking by vast amounts year by year, is still a very large place. The Amazon is huge, and we discover new plants and animals there all the time. So I do think that if this creature does exist, it probably is some sort of a cryptid, and a lot of mythological elements have been built around this animal. But yeah, I think it's an animal, and I don't know how much of the legends are true about it, but I do think that's probably something there in those jungles that we have not uncovered yet.
Well, Brent didn't take his rite of passage because he couldn't catch the Chullachaqui, and that's why he's having bad luck. Right, Brent?
Honestly, yeah.
You couldn't catch the Chullachaqui?
Yeah.
What do you do, Brent? How do he evade you?
What's that?
How did he get away from you? What do you do?
I don't know, man. I set a trap in the forest, and then I thought I would have caught him, but I guess I was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
I don't know why you Tim and Nick don't think that's funny.
It is funny.
The most common Chullachaqui tales are accounts of him impersonating someone familiar to his victim. Folks claim that this uncanny ability to replicate others makes it impossible to tell apart from the limping on his left leg. Okay, here's the thing that's weird. Okay, people say that it could shapeshift, right? But other people say that when it shapeshifts, for some reason, it has one goat's leg, or something that looks like a goat's leg. I guess that's the best way to explain it. And it looks like whatever the creature or the person is, they look like a person or a Bigfoot, but one leg is hairless and looks like a goat's leg.
Interesting.
So, what do you guys think? What's up with the leg?
I don't even know where to begin.
So it just has one goat leg?
That's the way they explain it, and the way illustrations show it too is it looks either like a person or a Bigfoot, but for some reason one leg looks like a horse's hoof or like a goat's leg.
The only answer to that question that comes to my mind is if this creature is real, maybe there was some freak mutation a long time ago in its evolutionary course, which made it grow one normal leg and one horse leg, and for some reason the horse or the goat leg has stuck. It's become a permanent fixture in the genetic code of the Chullachaqui. It's the only somewhat sane answer to the question I can think of.
What? That's a better answer than I had.
Well, the Chullachaqui is said to have an ability to turn into any animal in the rainforest, just like the Kushtaka. Chullachaqui is a kind of forest spirit who guards the lands and the animals and punishes a man if he breaks a taboo or otherwise acts unwisely in the forest. According to a local legend, Chullachaqui is a member of an older species that lived there long before humans, is what Native Americans say. And I guess the best way to explain it is it's almost like a tree spirit or a guardian of the forest, is what they think. But they did say they thought it was there long before humans existed, so I don't know what you guys think about all that.
It's clearly alien. I mean, we all know that aliens came down. We clearly know that the aliens came down and interbred with the Incas and the Mayans and created some hybrid kings of the Incas and the Mayans, according to that one documentary series on the History Channel.
On a serious note, Nick, I was going to say, what do you think about that? Do you think that about all that?
Well, it could be a previous hominid species. I know in the Popol Vuh, which is kind of like the Mayan or the Aztec Bible, I don't know exactly which tribe it belongs to, but in the creation myth of the Popol Vuh, God created several species. Like first, he created the regular animals, and then he didn't like them, so then he created a couple of different types of human-like species before he made humans. So maybe the Chullachaqui is one of those pre-human, I guess to use the word, it's a hominid. It's a human-like animal, like an ape, or any other like type of primate. Yeah, it's a human subspecies, or I guess it's a human subspecies.
Here's my opinion. Do you think it could be Homo florensis, that orang pendek human-like thing that they discovered in the early 2000s?
It could be.
It's impossible. I mean, Jer or Tim, both you guys know quite a bit about the orang pendek. Didn't they find 3-toed footprints for the orang pendek?
Yeah.
Yeah, they did actually.
So, I mean, there's a nice little coincidence or a possible link between the Chula and the orang pendek.
What's your opinion, Brent, on the Chullachaqui and Homo florensis?
It sounds like it could be an actual creature. I mean, just from from the castings, from having three-toed footprints, it sounds like it should be something similar related to the orang pendek.
The Chullachaqui, you mean?
Yeah, the Chullachaqui.
That's the first time I got Brent to even say its name on the show. Yo, Chula. But most of the time, Chullachaqui remain uninterested in humans. They inhabit forest spots far from human inhabitants. They supposedly have their own gardens and fields to tend to. If a human being dwells too close to their homes or wherever they live, they might get attacked, or, depending on if you're believing it or not, so they might put a spell on the human. Sometimes a Chullachaqui might also steal a human child and raise it as its own, or lure humans into a trap for mating purposes. A human stolen by a Chullachaqui becomes one of them or lives alongside them instead. It's similar to some of those old Bigfoot stories you hear about them abducting people, try to mate with them and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But, so, if they're mating with people, does that mean that it's some sort of a Neanderthal-like creature, or is it a Bigfoot? What's your opinion there, Nick? You probably have the best answer for this one.
Well, if it mates with us and it can conceive children by mating with a Homo sapien, then it definitely has to be very close to us genetically in order to be able to do that. Because if you guys recall from one of our previous shows when we talked about Stalin and his eight-man army experiments, he tried to impregnate women with gorilla semen, I think, and that was unsuccessful. So the Chullachaqui would have to be closer to us genetically than even a gorilla or a chimpanzee is, and they're pretty darn close. So yeah, it definitely would have to be some sort of a primate or human-like species.
But you do agree, though, that it sounds like some of those Bigfoot abduction stories, though.
Yeah, it does.
So, if you got abducted by a Chullachaqui, though, Brent, would you live alongside it in the forest, like they say?
Yeah, I would.
You'd have to.
It would be interesting. Yeah, you would have to. It's mandatory. For manhood. Yeah, exactly, your manhood.
Here's the other thing, though. Some people clearly stated that they have gardens and they have homes like you or me would. Does that mean that you think it's some sort of an ancient man could build a house and to have a like fields and I don't know what else you call it, cultivating?
Well, I could cross-reference a mythological story about a similar creature from a different time period in a different culture. In ancient Greece, they talk about the creature known as Pan, I believe, which is a half-goat, half-human creature that's about 3 or 4 feet tall that lives in the forests and keeps a home and a garden and plays this nice-sounding flute-like instrument. So, yeah, I guess that would be similar to the Chullachaqui in some regards. They're both guardians of the forest. They both the Chullachaqui supposedly has a goat leg. They both keep homes and gardens and whatnot. So perhaps it is some form of a pre-Homo sapien man. I guess that's my best guess.
Well, there's a researcher called Cesar Calvo, and apparently he's seen a Chullachaqui or has seen some of them before, and he says they're zombie-like creatures, creations of shamans sculpted out of the air or formed from kidnapped children is what he says. I didn't mention that theory earlier. So, you think they could be zombie-like people, Nick, like you were saying, people under a trance, or maybe people that got a spell put on them?
Yeah, it's unlikely, but definitely possible. I wouldn't rule it out. Again, I've never seen or I never heard of this creature, like I said earlier, until Brent told me about it the other day.
Yeah.
Well, I have a couple of 2 sighting reports I was going to mention. we're going to go on a quick commercial break, and when we get back, we are going to talk about some of the sighting reports. And you're listening to BFP Radio.
I love Basso, it's rich in chocolate tea. Chocolate flavored Basso is mighty good for me. Mama puts it in my milk for extra energy. Basso gives me iron and sunshine vitamin D. Oh, I love Basso, that's the drink.
Use Ajax, the foaming cleanser. Clean pots and pans, just like a whiz.
Ajax cuts grease faster than any other leading cleanser.
You'll stop paying the elbow tax when you start cleaning with Ajax.
Ajax really polishes as it cleans.
So use Ajax, the foaming cleanser.
And we're back on DFP Radio after a short commercial break. I have a couple of sighting reports from the Chullachaqui I was going to talk about. There's a guy named Don Augustin Rivas. Says he bravely interacted with the Chullachaqui. He described the creature as a small man who had an aged face, a curved nose, and small, brilliant eyes. He had a very small mouth and was missing one foot. Notice, he said it was missing a foot. Not that it had the goat foot, but it was missing a foot. He said since he immediately recognized the Chullachaqui, he paid respect to it by giving it some tobacco and a pipe to smoke. After that, he had a very good hunting time in the forest, he said, because I guess apparently it's good luck to make an offering to the Chullachaqui. So what's your opinion on that, Tim?
Wait, sorry, on what?
I was saying, did you hear the story?
No, I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. I'm posting on our Twitter page, advertising the radio show, sorry.
Oh, well, I'll ask Nick. Okay, Brent, what do you think about that? Do you think they say giving an offering to the Chullachaqui will give you good luck as far as hunting or being in the forest goes?
I mean, it doesn't. To me, it could. I mean, it sounds like it would be like a leprechaun type thing, like thing going on. It's kind of strange, but I don't know how that would help you in reality.
Yeah, it's probably just one of those tales like the natives have.
Yeah.
Well, there's different stories on there about people getting good luck by leaving offerings to the Chullachaqui. I just didn't write any of them down for the show purpose. But here's another one. I wrote, one of the most popular sightings of the Chullachaqui was in September 2007, when a group of tourists were visiting the San Andreas, Peru. The group was led by an experienced guide as they walked through the forest on their way to meet some Bora Indians. On their way, they came to the middle of a clearing with 3 different paths. The guide saw a small boy and asked him which path to take. Unfortunately, the boy wasn't really a boy, says the man, but he thought he was a Chullachaqui. They believed that the Chullachaqui led them deeper and deeper into the forest, and after a while, the guide realized that they were taking up a totally wrong route. As if they were just woken up from a trance, he says. The guide managed to safely get out of the forest, and they sprinted and ran away from the Chullachaqui. He says it took them hours to find their way back, apparently.
Wow. Good old Chula.
As he hung up and called back. But yeah, what's your opinion on that, Brent? Do you think that might have been a Chullachaqui, like legend says, that led them the wrong way?
Maybe.
There's good old Chula for you. That'd be crazy if we're in our secret Sasquatch place and that happens.
Okay, Brent, what would be weirder, to see a Kushtaka or a Chullachaqui?
Probably Chula. A Chula, yeah.
Well, we have about 3 minutes left in the show, it says. Yeah, did you guys want to give your impressions of what you think of the Chullachaqui before we end the show?
Yeah, well, it sounds like it could possibly be like a Bigfoot type creature.
What about you, Nick?
I agree with Tim. I think it's some type of a Bigfoot-like creature, probably some type of a primate species that lived in the Mesoamericas prior to the arrival of the Homo sapiens, however many thousands of years ago that was.
You agree with them, Brent?
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with them.
But if it wasn't a living creature, you said you would compare it to a leprechaun or something like that, though, right?
Yeah, like something that would either give you good luck or give you bad luck. Type of, yeah.
Well, we have about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes in the show. I was going to thank all my panel for calling in and helping me along. I'd like to thank everybody that contributed on our Twitter, different message boards, Facebook. Yeah, we're going to have another show next Saturday at 3 p.m. Pacific time. And we don't have a chosen topic at the moment, but we'll figure it out. Again, if you want more information, you can write us at bigfootspad.com. There are emails on there. Or you can check out facebook.com/BFPteam, twitter.com/BFPteam, and there's links to all these on our main website, bigfootspad.com. And again, I'll let my co-hosts say their goodbyes, and we'll end the show for today, and we'll see you guys next weekend.
Yeah, thanks again, Brent, for finding the topics. It was pretty cool.
Yeah,
thanks, Brent. Bye.
That was pretty good, Brent.
Yeah, no problem, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Brent. Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Have a good one, everybody.
Bye.